How long do you have? Couple of weeks? He whistled again, the same way he did when he read about some fantastic mountain man feat. They're paying for all your food? He asked. I shook my head. I am, I guess. He didn't say anything about that. What about your scholarship? I hadn't thought of that. While Rader had scraped together his last dollars for tuition, I'd walked out of registration with a check for $500. I guess I'll probably lose that. He asked how much I made off my scholarship, and I told him. He was never a miracle worker in math, so it was a minute before he said, "So you're giving up $1,500 of scholarship for $1,400 of pay?" I nodded. Well, at least they're letting you pay for all your own food. I nodded a little less certainly, not having thought about it quite like that. I wonder how much rent they'll charge for the tent. He didn't say anything about that, I told him. They couldn't really make me pay rent. Rader started to laugh, and he reached out the window and snagged a couple of the stubby bottles of beer he had cooling on the sill. We knocked off the caps, and he lifted his beer in a toast. "Fucking Fromm," he said, grinning and shaking his head. I glowed under his eloquence. The next day I did business. Before I dropped out, I tried everything I could to keep my scholarship. I finally got someone to admit that if I stayed enrolled, my scholarship would stay intact. Rader and I sat back and wondered how that could be finagled. The next day I went into the unexplored liberal arts side of campus. I hooked up with a humanities professor, though I hadn't even known there was such a thing. When I walked out, I was enrolled for the next 3 quarters in an independent study course on journal writing. 3 credits a quarter, pass, no pass, since it would be impossible to grade. Journal writing, we cackled. What in the world kind of course was that? We agreed that I'd pulled a world-class boondoggle. The beers we cracked in celebration that first day uncorked a river of the stuff that flowed almost without stop for the next 2 weeks. Friends heard what I was doing and threw parties, or took me out on the town for a last taste of civilization. They took turns giving me send-offs, so no matter how bleary-eyed I grew, there was always a fresh, eager face waiting to tie one on the next night. All the shopping I had to do was done in the lulls of these festivities. I knew so little about what was needed, I don't know if that hurt or not. When I'd left Mom's table, I'd moved straight to the college food service. I hadn't cooked anything but a hot dog or 2 in my life. Now 7 months' worth of grocery shopping stared me down. Rader and I wandered the aisles of the bulk-rate food store in a quandary. I bought, as it turned out, enough rice for a few years and enough beans for decades. At the last instant, I remembered to buy a percolator and a few pots and pans, things I'd never owned or used. And finally I added 100 pounds of potatoes, saying I'd dig a food cache to keep them from freezing. I didn't really have any idea how to make such a thing, but the word cache was always creeping up in the mountain man books. It had a certain sound to it. We bundled all the food into our tiny dorm room, forming an impressive pile, then set off for the fun stuff. Rader was convinced I wasn't going to eat beans all winter, but that I was going to become a skilled subsistence hunter. I'd never shot a thing in my life, but this too had a nice ring to it. We took the deer slayer to the local sporting goods store, and I kissed my scholarship money goodbye. I bought candles and axes and splitting wedges. I bought 2 pairs of snowshoes, one round and one long, though I wasn't sure what the difference was. They were made from ash and rawhide, full of primitive, utilitarian beauty. Wool pants were next, 3 pair, though 2 seemed like enough. I didn't want to be caught short in the wilderness. Then the real fun began, the purchasing of all the mountain man accoutrements that would undoubtedly be essential. Though I had no idea how to work one,